Guild Wars 2 ends up feeling like it feels like a village in the mountains that you get to go visit. Um, and it's lovely and the air is clean and and you look forward to it. And you get lost in your life when you're not there and you forget about it. But then eventually something will call to remember and you'll be like, oh, I can't wait to get back there. And that's what I've been feeling. Actually, I've been thinking about making a video entitled something like I Miss Guild Wars 2, talking about the fact that this game has not had the content that I needed to have for me to return to it, for me to go back to that mountain village. Hello, friends, and hello, my fellow Tyrians. Today is a portentous day, a wonderful day, a day of surprises, a day all about the future. Today, checks calendar, February the 13th of 2023. ArenaNet, the developer behind Guild Wars 2, dropped their roadmap for this coming year, and I think for perhaps a good deal longer. I have only seen teases of some of these headlines. I haven't actually read the article, so we're going to do that now, and I'm going to give you my reaction to it. Here goes. Studio update Guild Wars 2 in 2023. Hello, Guild Wars community. Today, we'll be talking about some big changes we're making to how we develop and deliver new content and features, including our approach to expansions, and we'll share our next development roadmap. This blog is absolutely jam-packed with information, so let's dig in. Defining the problem. Something that the community's been working on for a long time. Let's see what we got. Our goals for the next phase of Guild Wars 2 are simple. We want to deliver content updates in a more timely and consistent manner. Check. We want to provide better support for the wide variety of systems and game modes that make up the Guild Wars 2 experience. Now, that is a heavily laden sentence. Having the development bandwidth needed to iterate on core systems is especially important to us, and it's something we've been making headway on over the last year with our quality of life improvement initiative. There are so many systems in Guild Wars 2 that have good bones, and they can be even better. Just a little bit of love. Yeah, I like that. Let's hear some more. The path forward. The first step towards accomplishing these goals was to rebalance how we allocate our development resources across the project. Historically, with few exceptions, Living World seasons have required the focus of nearly the entire Guild Wars 2 development team to deliver them at the size, quality, and cadence that our players expect. This made it difficult to simultaneously develop expansions while supporting the game with regular content updates. It also meant that many areas of the game went under-supported. I buy this, totally buy this. In the next phase of Guild Wars 2 development, we're taking a more balanced approach that will allow us to provide more support for popular game modes, make frequent quality of life improvements to core gameplay systems like professions, deliver new features, and expand the world of Tyria with satisfying, immersive story updates. What it means for you. Our future expansions for Guild Wars 2 will be the backbone of this new approach. Rather than launching an expansion every 2 to 4 years, yeah, I guess that's right. With a season of Living World in between, we'll be releasing smaller expansions more frequently at a slightly reduced price and adding additional content for those expansions through quarterly updates, meaning that the next big release is only a few months away. The first release in an expansion cycle is the launch point for a new story arc, bringing with it the two new. Hang on, I got to go through this more slowly. The first release in an expansion cycle is the launch point for a new story arc, bringing with it 2 new open world maps, 2 strike missions, new gameplay and combat features, new masteries, new rewards. In the following quarterly updates, we'll add another open world map, additional story chapters, challenge modes for the strike missions, a new fractal dungeon in challenge mode, new rewards, and additions to the new systems introduced in that expansion. Once that expansion story is complete, the next expansion will be just around the corner. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's continue. Spring roadmap. The next chapter of Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons arrives on February 28th. Let's go. Let's go. Been waiting a whole year for this. With familiar allies like Detective Rama and his hat at your side, you'll travel to a new location in Canthon, come face to face with a deadly foe that resides deep within the Jade Sea. That storyline will conclude a few months later with an update that introduces additional playable space to the map, adds meta events and boss encounters. I'm going to go through this more slowly again. The storyline will conclude a few months later, a few months after February 28th, with an update that introduces additional playable space to the map, adds, so not new maps, but new space. Okay. Adds meta events and boss encounters and lays the groundwork for future to be announced adventures. Unlike a Living World release, all owners of Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons will gain access to this content, meaning there's no pressure to log in to unlock it and no gem cost for missed story chapter unlocks. Very good. Very good. A little teaser. A little ley line shenanigans. Looks a little bit like the ley line conflux in Tangled Depths. Shout out to Heart of Thorns. Continuing. In the first half of the year, we'll release the Su-Wan Legendary Weapon Skin Variant Collection, 2 Profession Balance updates, a new Fractal Dungeon and Challenge mode, and multiple updates for World vs. World. Additionally, we'll finish rolling out DX11 and Chromium Embedded Framework upgrades. I'm not sure what that Chromium thing is. Is it like a UI thing? And run our usual festival and bonus events. We also have some quality of life updates in the works, including a long requested feature that will allow you to queue for PvE maps when they're full. Might have a few surprises in store for you as well. Wrap up. We're so excited about the next phase of Guild Wars 2, both the things we were able to share today and what's just over the horizon. The changes we've outlined will allow us to provide a better experience to our fans, release new content updates more consistently, and ensure that Guild Wars 2 will be around for many, many years to come. See you in the game. Grouch, Josh Davis, the game director. Okay. Wow. So, I like the soul of this very much. I'll tell you why. I found Guild Wars when I was in college. Gosh, 20 years ago-ish? Anyone else old? And for me, when I came to Guild Wars, it was like this quirky, artsy alternative to World of Warcraft, which everyone knew was taking the world by storm. Guild Wars was like, have you heard of Guild Wars? It's like when you're talking about some popular band and someone introduced you like a more artsy, like more kind of strange and offbeat version of it. That was what Guild Wars was like back in the day. I think it still has a little bit of that like complex, like it grew up with that. But anyway, I like that Guild Wars 2 is still doing expansions because it seems clear that they're needed to keep the revolving door of interest, people leaving the game, entering the game, leaving the game, entering the game, going. To keep people constantly coming in, rather. My impression is that Living World, as excellent, frankly, as it's been for keeping the interest of existing players, has never done a good job of bringing in the new players. And expansions will do that in a way, have done that in a way that Living World does not. And I'm hopeful that the yearly expansions will do the same. Now, 1 year to make an expansion, plus the commitment to spread the team, let's say, more evenly across all the various content systems this game has, does mean that many of our most well-loved aspects of Guild Wars 2 in terms of development time might feel a little thin. I'm wondering about this. I'm thinking out loud a little bit. It seems as though like the personal story aspect of Guild Wars 2 has always been kind of like a favored child in terms of what gets development effort. Also, the world. I think the world expansion is so important. I love that they said that we're gonna keep adding maps. That to me, like, adding maps to Guild Wars is like the experience that I find myself interested in. The exploration of the world, the story that unfolds through it is awesome. If you give me a story in an existing map, it's a lot less cool. Let's just be honest. Um, but anyway, I don't want to get too far into the details. What I want to say is that I like the idea of Guild Wars 2 setting itself apart by being a yearly expansion game. It's a little different. It's a little offbeat. It's a little more artsy than the alternatives. And I think that suits it very well. Um, Now, I started with a wide interest in Guild Wars 2 across all the game modes, but I very quickly realized that for me, competitive PvP in in a fantasy MMO is not something I care very much about anymore. Also, non-competitive PvP like World versus World. I mean, it is competitive, but the outcomes are a little less winner loser. It's a little more gray, right? So I've always been much more of a Care Bear for Guild Wars 2, much more of a PvE guy, and I like that they're putting their flag down and saying that they're committing to strikes for the future because PvE and gamers have always had this question in Guild Wars 2 about like what can we expect from this game? And it seems like there's an answer to that question there. Yeah, let's see what else. So I'm just thinking about the timeline. End of Dragons came out in February of last year, almost a whole year from this recording. And this update, the update that will add the End of Dragons map and story content, will come out a full year. I know it doesn't take a full year to make that much content. So, and I know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to figure out the processes, the teams, everything that needs to be rejiggered and changed to get people into this new workflow, into this new cadence, to actually deliver on the consistency that was at the top of this article, and which has been, frankly, such a sore spot for Guild Wars 2 over the years. You know, it's interesting. I haven't had the experience of playing a lot of other MMOs, other than like World of Warcraft a little bit, but throughout my entire time with Guild Wars 2, which started in like January 2015. It was right at the end of season 2, right at the start of the content drought that led up to the first expansion, Heart of Thorns. It's never been clear what to expect from ArenaNet and Guild Wars 2. Heart of Thorns was such a it felt like such a brash thing. It was saying, we're here, we're hardcore, we're a real MMO, get stuck in. And then there wasn't content for a long time, and it felt like there was a pulling back on some of like the seriousness of the world. And then we got Living World season 3, season 4. Sorry, I guess there was Path of Fire sandwiched between that. There was this weird like golden era where we went right from a expansion in 2017 with Path of Fire right into Living World season 4. So it's really interesting to hear Grouch talking about how, generally speaking, Living World took the entire development team to deliver. If that's true, then what the hell was going on in 2015 and 2016 when Path of Fire was getting made? I'm really curious. I'm really curious. I'd like to ask Grouch about that. Was he even at the company then? I don't know if he was at the company at that time. But anyway, in any case, that time that I just described, whatever happened there, it was the exception to the rule for Guild Wars 2. At that time, when I felt like we knew what to expect, when to expect it, was all too short. And when season 4 ended and Arene flew off into the sky, it wasn't clear at all whether there was going to be any more Guild Wars 2 at all. I'm delighted. I'm delighted that there has been. But yeah, let's think. There was definitely some mentions of working on the core game, professions, balance patches, all that stuff is good. Um, man, I really like the sound of this. I really like the sound of this very much, but I really need to see it, ArenaNet. I really need to see it. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I have taken 2022 as it's probably the year that I've spent the least amount of time with Guild Wars 2 since I started playing it. And it's because the End of Dragons expansions dropped. It was such a breath of fresh air. I had a huge change in my life. I moved house. And by the time I did that, I was ready to do something else, not come back to Guild Wars 2. And then for the rest of the year, for me, there was no reason to come back to Guild Wars 2. For me, coming back to chase legendaries was not something I cared to do. The Seasons of the Dragon, I think is what it's called, the sort of prestige achievement to get another legendary to go back and replay all the content. I'm in this sort of weird demographic of MMOs where I enjoy the world and the presence and the through line, but I don't enjoy the the iterative repetition of the same pieces of content over and over again. When I hear about strikes, I get excited not for me, but for the people who I know will be playing alongside in the same world as me. Because if I ever do like Harvest Temple challenge mode, as an example, it'll probably just be a one-time thing. I don't need to come back. Um, my character, my main, my warrior, doesn't need very much. And Guild Wars 2 has made this, again, artsy almost choice to not make us grind power, meaning that the power that I had, let's see, 3 years ago, 4 years, 3 years ago, which is the last time I seriously played Guild Wars 2, is still right at the cap. I like that because Guild Wars 2 ends up feeling like it feels like a village in the mountains that you get to go visit. Um and it's lovely and the air is clean and you look forward to it. And you get lost in your life when you're not there and you forget about it, but then eventually something will call to your memory and you'll be like, "Oh, I can't wait to get back there." And that's what I've been feeling. Actually, I've been thinking about making a video entitled something like "I Miss Guild Wars 2," talking about the fact that this game has not had the content that I needed to have for me to return to it, for me to go back to that mountain village. Um, I'm really happy to hear that that finally is happening. We are seeing some new content at the end of February. Hilarious that it once again drops and competes with ArenaNet's crosstown rivals, Bungie, and their new Destiny 2 expansion. But it's funny how release dates work, isn't it? Um, Hello, friends. This is Deeg from the future, from the morning after recording this video, when he realized there were a couple of things that he missed and wanted to make sure didn't get left out. First, I thought to myself about the yearly expansion model, and I remembered, oh yeah, there's another game that I've played that uses a yearly expansion model, and I even mentioned it in the video, and I can't believe I didn't put this together, but it's Destiny 2. Destiny 2 since Shadowkeep, which I think came out in 2019, people check me, has been doing yearly expansions and seasonal content that gets dribbled out along the year. And I think it makes an interesting point of comparison for Guild Wars 2 and what we could expect from it in yearly expansions. Now, for Destiny 2, it's a very different game. It's a first-person shooter. It also needs to run on console, so there's a whole bunch of major caveats that could change a lot of this. But I will tell you, as a casual Destiny player who's never really enjoyed the grind of Destiny, of just plowing through menus and loot and going for god rolls and stuff like that, um, I've always found this new model of Destiny since Forsaken, which was very content dense from Shadowkeep on, to be fairly thin on content. Um, and it doesn't give me a lot to chew on without putting me in a position where it's asking me to repeat things over and over and over again, with the hope that if I change my loadout, it'll feel totally different, which to me, it just never quite does. I love Destiny. I think it's got such a cool universe. It's a beautiful game. It feels great to play. I always wish there was more for me to do in Destiny too. And I hope that a yearly expansion model for Guild Wars 2 doesn't end up feeling this way, but we'll see. Um, the other note that I wanted to tack on is about elite specializations, which I totally just forgot about somehow. Now, in past content, I've talked about how to me, expansions are sort of defined in major ways by elite specializations. And to me, whatever other things the Icebird saga did well or did poorly, for me, it didn't meet the bar of hitting expansion like quality content because they didn't add more elite specs to classes. Elite specs are our way of majorly iterating on the professions so that you can take a character you already love, that you're already attached to, you've already invested in, and find and make the new content you do feel special because you're exploring a new way to play a lot at the same time, and also give you a chance to refresh old content. Elite specs are such a powerful way of iterating on the game. Now, back when Guild Wars 2 was that idea that an expansion must have an elite spec came from, for me, an idea of an expansion being every 2 years. It seems sort of reasonable to do that. And yes, there are questions of, well, if we're doing 5, 6, 7, 8 expansions, if Guild Wars 2 continues and continues, how do we keep adding elite specs without making things completely ridiculous? I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. But if we're going to yearly expansions, it makes this idea even more challenging, even more fraught. Um, Now, there was a call out in the letter about iterating on professions. It didn't mention elite specs. So I'm supposing that there will be a refinement of the specs that we have today. Um, my concern is that it won't feel as cool and as new and as fresh as what a new elite spec can bring. Now, going back to comparing things to Destiny again, Destiny has actually gone back and majorly revamped their old specs to feel really new again. It's been really impressive what they've done in the last few years with their they've introduced a new element called stasis. They're introducing another new element called strand in the upcoming expansion, Lightfall, and they refined their fire, void, and arc, I think, are the other elements to be more interesting and better and hook into the modern best practices of the game. So maybe that's something like what we can expect from Guild Wars 2 in terms of iterating on its professions. I don't know what we'll see exactly, but I'm willing to be open hearted about what the future of my warrior looks like. Um, if it means that there's a future roadmap for Guild Wars 2 content, and rather than this sense of uncertainty where we have an expansion, a beautiful expansion that comes out, and then just, okay, what what else can ever happen? Which is where we've been so many times. But anyway, I digress. I just wanted to add those couple of notes, and I'll kick it back to Dig in the Past. Hey friends, I thought of one last thing. I promise it's the last thing. And it again is useful with this comparison to Destiny 2. With Destiny, one of the things that we know is that Bungie as a studio is working on a new major intellectual property. They're developing a new IP, a new game, and for them, Destiny is an existing product that is it works, and they're putting it out to their loyal base to keep things rolling while they build the new thing in the background. Okay? Now, far from being a cynical thing, I don't want you to take this as being like a skeleton crew or anything like that. I think this is sort of like essential for a game studio to do. You become known for one major thing, but you have all your eggs in one basket. That's fairly dangerous. And just creatively, Guild Wars has been going for a long time. Destiny's been going for a long time. Creatively, it makes sense for studios to move on. But anyway, um, I bring this up because not too long ago, there were some major studio changes that got brought in, and Colin Johansson, the once game director of Guild Wars 2, has returned to us, but we haven't heard a lot from him in this new era of Guild Wars 2. And it prompts the question, what is Colin working on? I think we know it's not that much of a secret that Arena is working on other things. They have always had other projects going in the background, just none of them have ever come to fruition that we are aware of. So, the last piece of context for this analysis is to think about what Guild Wars 2 is going to look like as a product that already works, that needs to keep feeding its existing base while being friendly to new players to keep that revolving door going, and while ArenaNet builds the next great thing that I'm still very excited to see. It's going to be cool. I look forward to learning what that is whenever that happens. And I hope we get a lot of Guild Wars 2 expansions before that. And that's it. That's really the last thing. Promise. Yeah, I love the world of Guild Wars 2 and Tyria, and it'll always have this incredible place in my heart for being a world that I got to share with my wife. And all the places in it, the art, the music, the characters. I'll always be excited to find out where they will have gone. Um, I don't know when I return if Guild Wars 2 will ever be able to pull me in with another new system that'll get me to grind again. Um, Sitting here right now talking to you, the answer feels like no, but I don't think it's got anything to do with Guild Wars 2. It's got a lot more to do with me. And now this video is getting is getting off into strange territory. So I'm gonna seal it off here. ArenaNet yearly expansions, supporting existing content, and just letting us know what to expect. The heart of communication is about setting expectations and then meeting them. And what that results in is trust. And trust is what the active community so wants to have in those who are the caretakers of the world of Tyria. Um, I can't wait to find out where we'll go, and I'll certainly see you there. Take great care of yourself, folks. Be good to each other, and I'll see you very soon.